Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. As always, thank you for joining us. Obama's got nothing. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right, his swagger doesn't have the appeal it used to have. His shout-outs, hello, Pittsburgh. The audience, it just kind of seems juvenile, I think. And now the man who won the presidency as the great uniter is making a nakedly racial insulting appeal to black male voters who are skeptical of Kamala Harris.
We have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout as we saw when I was running. That seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. You're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that. Part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. And you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that.
Well, with Kamala's mounting challenges in battleground states, Obama jetted in and he held court. You saw him there. But rather than addressing concerns about Harris's record on the economy and on the border, people's standards of living, he tried to shame black men into supporting her.
So now you're thinking about sitting out or even supporting somebody who has a history of denigrating you because you think that's a sign of strength, because that's what being a man is?
Really? That's the argument? His message to black men is clear. You're stupid sexist if you don't vote for Kamala. Is this what all that hope and change was all about all those years ago? All right, let's be very clear here. In the history books, Obama's administration will go down as a failure because when it was over in 2016, the voters rejected his chosen candidate, Hillary Clinton, and they elected someone who had never run for political office before, a businessman, Donald Trump. Americans had had enough of the Obamas, and they wanted to go in a completely different direction. And the facts show why. Remember, President Obama promised to help the middle class and urban voters, but he really never did. And he promised that he would get tough on China, and he was going to declare them a currency manipulator, but he never did. And he promised to renegotiate NAFTA, but we know he never did that either. President Trump got more done in his own one term than Obama did in two, and Trump had a pandemic to deal with. Now look at the real median household income numbers. Wow, hit a record high under Trump. Even CNN had to report it. Well, Obama knows all this, and he knows that in every poll conducted for the past few years, voters have been very clear. They prefer Trump's economic record to Biden and Harris's. So while Obama, I think, believed he needed something new to say yesterday, and he tried to save this issue for Kamala. Now, he's had months to think about an argument, but this was the best he could come up with.
The reason some people think, well, I don't know, I remember that economy when he first came in being pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good, because it was my economy. I had spent 8 years cleaning up the mess that the Republicans had left me the last time. So just in case everybody has a hazy memory, he didn't do nothing except those big tax cuts.
Not surprising from the man who famously said this.
Somebody helped to create this unbelievable American system that we have that allowed you to thrive. Somebody invested in roads and bridges. If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Yeah, Trump didn't help build that economy. I did. Now, almost nothing Obama said in Pittsburgh was actually true.
For Donald Trump and his cronies, freedom means that the powerful can do whatever they please. We believe in the freedom to provide for our families. We believe that true freedom gives each of us the right to make decisions about our own life.
Oh, really? Then why is Kamala sitting on $1 billion war chest if she's not supported by the powerful, Mr. President? Now, under Trump, the powerful weren't allowed to flood our communities with migrants or to send your jobs offshore. Like, Obama doesn't even sound like he believes much of what he's saying anymore, and especially about Kamala.
The good news is, Kamala Harris, she doesn't have concepts for a plan. She has an actual plan to make your life better, to bring down the cost of things like groceries. She'll go after corporations that are jacking up prices.
All right, I have a question for Obama. If she has this great detailed plan, why is she unable to explain or to defend it under real questioning? Why are the voters not buying it? And why does she need you to try to do it all for her? It's all ridiculous. And you know what else is ridiculous? That the guy who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in his first year in office, which is still hilarious, is now on the same side as Dick Cheney. And the fact is, Obama's act was always phony. He was never a racial healer. He's a cynical fomenter of racial divisions. And he was never a champion of the working class. He supports and agrees with the same globalists and billionaires who support Kamala Harris today. And he was never really a peacemaker. He agrees with most of the Cheney's views on foreign policy now and supports the Cheney's picked presidential candidate. Now, this is his real record. And this is why the voters rejected his recommendation in 2016, Hillary Clinton, and this is why voters are rejecting his advice right now. He's always been kind of the same editor of the Harvard Law Review who learned to protect and defend the elites. He's comfortable with them. If you want to know about real estate, Martha's Vineyard, or hear about how to score floor tickets to the Knicks game, then he's your man. But if you're trying to figure out how to build a colorblind political coalition or raise living standards for the middle class, then he's the last person you should be taking advice from. As we told you last night, the problem for these people isn't their calm strategy. The problem is all of them are wedded to the same failed policies that have eviscerated our middle class. Meanwhile, President Trump has spent 9 years under relentless assault showing us that he is committed to the multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-state coalition to improve life for all Americans. So voters, vote for your own interests. You don't owe Obama anything. He's going to be fine. He has his mansions and his movie and Netflix deals and his standing invites on private yachts in the south of France. Now, remember, he's the smartest guy they've got. And he's obviously been thinking about how to defend the Biden-Harris record for months. And in the end, all he's got is, you're being mean to her because you don't like women. In other words, they got nothing. And that's the angle.
Kamala Harris has a man problem. White dudes for Harris isn't working, and the hombres don't trust her.
Right now, leaning towards Trump, but I haven't made a decision. I'm also concerned about the way I feel President Biden was pushed aside.
Oh.
And as Obama said, Harris also has a problem with the brothers.
Well, now Joe Biden's out and Kamala's in. What do you think of her?
Garbage.
She's for herself.
I don't know what she did when she was the vice president. I don't know what she's gonna do now.
She's part of the problem of the country.
A lot of people vote because she's black. You don't vote for nobody because of their color, you know. You vote for what good they can do. You know, she could be the devil in disguise.
Donors are admitting men are gone. But Democrats say Kamala Harris isn't the issue. Men are. And they should see a psychiatrist.
I think men are in crisis, actually, in this country. I think that plays out different ways. And not all men are in crisis, of course. And not all men are just at home listening to Joe Rogan, being angry or being recruited to fascism. Some just need therapy, like we all do. We need to have a real conversation about that rather than allowing this kind of drift toward this faux masculinity that we see Donald Trump evincing.
Do you really think Kamala's losing because men are in crisis? No. Real men aren't in crisis. But these guys are.
I'm man enough to be emotional in front of my wife.
In front of my kids.
In front of my horse.
I'm man enough to tell you that I cry at Love Actually.
Good Will Hunting.
West Side Story. That and Predator.
And I'm sick of so-called men domineering, belittling, and controlling women just so they can feel more powerful.
That's not how my mama raised me.
I love women.
I love women who support their families.
Women who decide not to have families.
women who take charge.
And I'm man enough to help them win.
So if you don't cry in front of your horse or at Love Actually, you're not a real man. And you need to see a shrink who will prescribe you medication that'll turn you into a zombie and allow you to enjoy being bossed around by a pretty woman.
I just hope that all the women here tonight talk to all the men that aren't here tonight, and all you brave men that are here tonight. Talk to all the other men that aren't here tonight. And let's just get it going. Enough with the fighting. Let's get to the uniting. Let's get to the joy.
That's the Democrats' idea of a brave man. Not a cop or a soldier or a guy who gets shot and pops back up. Democrats believe a brave man goes to Kamala rallies and nags their buddies into voting Democrat. But if a pretty woman doesn't do it for you, maybe the Messiah can turn you on.
I'm sorry, gentlemen. I've noticed this especially with some men who seem to think Trump's behavior, the bullying and the putting people down, is a sign of strength. And I am here to tell you that is not what real strength is.
Don't get it twisted, fellas. This is what a real man looks like. This is the kind of strapping masculinity that Democrats idolize. Michelle, I'll be right up. I'm almost finished my set. The kind of guy that loves vanilla soft serve. Take me out to the ball game, Barry. And then he told black men, vote for Kamala or you ain't black.
We have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. I also want to say that that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. You're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that because part of it makes me think, and I'm speaking to men directly now, part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president.
Trump says Kamala may have lost another brother. Quote, I think Obama will be voting for me because he doesn't like the fact that Kamala is an extremely low IQ person. Obama's trying to glue his shattered coalition back together, but it's going to take more than Barry scolding black men as sexist race traitors to win the male vote. Democrats know it.
Why are black men being lectured to? Why are black men being belittled? For him to single out black men is wrong. And some of the black men that I have talked to have their reasons why they want to vote a different way. Unless President Barack Obama is going to go out and lecture every other group of men from other identity groups, my message for Democrats is don't bring it here to black men who, by and large, don't vote much differently from black women.
Ooh, sounds like Barry's in trouble with the ladies. So they're moving on to plan B, slapping a helmet on Coach Walz and throwing him into the game to tackle white guys and drag them to the polls. Walz to launch media blitz to woo male voters. Walz wooing dudes can only mean one thing. Pheasant hunts, football games, and Michael Strahan.
When it comes to President Biden and the presidency, would you or do you see anything that you would have done different?
Yeah, and look, as a governor, I was asked to be governor of this state when Donald Trump was president and when Joe Biden was there. I think the thing that drew me to this ticket, and I think what the vice president's talking about, is that her values on these hasn't changed.
So it makes me want to ask you, do you think that Biden's done everything right?
Well, look, I don't know if any of us do everything right, but I can tell you he's done everything in the best interest of the American public.
Kamala's doing so badly with men that now she's just identifying as Biden. And it got worse.
He said, I think all of us know the Electoral College needs to go. But the campaign came out later that night, and they said that's not their stance.
Yeah. The campaign's position is clear, that that's not their position. Their position and my position is to make sure that everybody understands their vote, no matter what state they're in, matters.
So that's something that you and Vice President Harris disagree on?
I have spoken about it in the past, that she's been very clear on this, and the campaign, and my position is the campaign's position.
The only thing clear about that was that Coach Walz spoke out of turn and the campaign bent him over their knee and spanked him. This election isn't about men supporting women and blacks supporting Kamala. None of that identity politics matters. It's about making the country better. And if you've made it worse and you say you're the same as the guy who made it that way and don't have a plan to fix it, then everything you're saying is just fluff.
So when we think about what's at stake in this election, whoa, it's packed with some stuff. It's packed with some fundamental stuff. I say rather articulately.
So we watched her speech, so you don't have to. And we were waiting for her to tell us the fundamental stuff that's at stake. And she just told a long, boring story about John McCain. Meghan McCain, after tweeting, "Don't make me tell you what my father really thought about Kamala Harris." Meanwhile, on the Republican side, there's not a lot of scolding and bedwetting. What we see is quiet confidence. Trump's finishing this race in a disciplined manner, staying out of the media booby traps, and connecting with new voters on a different level.
I'm good with names, you know.
You are.
You're very good with names.
I mean, Pocahontas.
Yeah.
We have names.
What about, and there was, Tampon Tim was good. What about, is
The
that?
problem with Tampon Tim, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
In other words,
It's a mouthful.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Tampon. And you can't stutter it through when you follow it. It's really a lousy word to say.
Yeah.
But it's quite accurate. When you put the names together, it's a little, you got to be able to pume. No, you got to be able to put it out there.
Trump's winning the battle for men by being himself, while Kamala's being somebody else, Joe Biden. And men weren't going to vote for Joe Biden either. That's why Barry cooed him. He was going to lose, and Kamala may lose now too. Don't blame that on American men. American men didn't blow up the border and break the dollar. A real man never would have done that. Real men accept responsibility for their actions. And Democrats couldn't do that. They couldn't let Biden run, accept the loss, and try harder next election. They had to whack him and run Kamala. And now it's the same result for the same reason. Democrats have performance issues, and they need to get that treated.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.